Christmas!
Merry Christmas to all of
It is December 25th. If y'all hear some noise in the background, it's just Cyan playing with some of his Legos. But I wanted to go ahead and do an update, like a pregnancy update from like when I found out to where I am now. Today I'm 17 weeks and 4 days. And y'all bear with me. The best lighting in my apartment right now is in my bathroom. So for now I'm using like, if y'all can see, I got like books stacked for like my tripod. And I'm using Zion's table, his little Paw Patrol table. It's like my little recording area. But y'all bear with me, grow with me as I learn and, you know, upgrade in this YouTube recording world. But like I said, today I'm 17 weeks and 4 days. So I'll go ahead and give y'all like a belly shot.
A belly shot? Let me see. Right here?
Yeah. So I'm not really that big.
Aww. Wow. I don't like the baby.
I know. Zion loves loving on my tummy. And the stretch marks that I have, those are from Zion. Those are not from the new baby yet, because my stomach is nowhere near stretched enough to start stretch marks. But anyways, let's get into it. So what I want to do is I want to be able to give like a week by week. So probably like on the day before I hit another week, I'll like go through and give like what my symptoms were during that week. Just like things that helped me that could probably help some other pregnant moms out there. I'll do a general symptoms video. Y'all hear I'm kind of out of breath. That's one of my symptoms lately, like being out of breath. But I'll do a general symptoms video to kind of give like a rundown of the symptoms that you may not even know about being pregnant. There's some symptoms that I've had that I did not have when I was pregnant with Zion, and like I've never heard anybody talk about. So I give those symptoms that you never hear about. So stay tuned for that. I'm just going to give like an update today from when I found out to where I am now at 17 weeks. And then I'll do a separate video of like my 17 weeks. Yes,
okay,
baby.
Help put the tail up.
So Zion is building. He got, where's your box? You want to show him your box? Part of motherhood. Balancing right now. But Zion got a little Iron Man Lego set today for Christmas.
Knuckle
Show it to him real quick.
He a big on Iron Man and Knuckle can punch him really good.
You want to tell him who that is?
Knuckle! And he can punch big on Iron Man.
So that's some of the things that Zion got today. You want to tell him some other stuff you got so far?
Yeah.
Hurry. Just tell him real quick so mommy can finish.
I took that on paper and bring your Iron Man.
And what game did you get today? What game system that you really wanted is gold?
And Nintendo with Mario Rabbit.
If y'all didn't hear that, Nintendo plus Mario plus Rabbids. He got the Nintendo Switch. Zion is really big on games, so
And I
that was something that he really wanted for Christmas, and he got it.
Well, you can't.
Okay, so my pregnancy timeline as of now. So going back.
Mama, where's the people?
Inside the box. Going back on September. So September is when I got pregnant. September 30th. I know the day.
What are you doing?
So like I didn't know that I was pregnant. I started having really bad abdominal pains to the point where I would be in like tears. I had really bad pressure on my right side. I was having really bad lower back pains. And so it got to the point where it was so bad, I was in tears. It just felt like something wasn't right. I also started seeing like a frothy look to my urine. And so I was really concerned about my kidneys. And so that made me go ahead and go to get checked out. And I hadn't missed my period or anything like that. There was a possibility that I could have been pregnant because my boyfriend, I'm in a long distance relationship. My boyfriend, he had just come to visit for our year anniversary in September. But I really didn't honestly think that I was. And my period, like I hadn't missed my period or anything yet. So I went to the doctor and let's see. If y'all see me, I'm trying to read at the same time because I wrote some stuff down so I can go through this faster. One thing I was concerned about other than my kidneys, I was concerned if I was pregnant, an ectopic pregnancy, because of the symptoms and the pain that I was having. And that day that I actually went to the doctor, I was having really, really bad, intense lower back pain and really, really bad, intense right shoulder pain. And for those of you that do not know, right shoulder pain and lower back pain and pain in your pelvis area is a sign of ectopic pregnancy. And so I went in, they checked my urine and everything, and I ended up finding out that I was pregnant. So because of the pain that I was having in the areas, they told me to go ahead and go to the emergency room because they too were concerned with ectopic pregnancy. And so when I went, I was about 4 weeks when I found out. And so when I went, the baby was not visible enough, or the gestational period wasn't far along enough for anything to really be seen on the ultrasound that they did on me. So they did a vaginal ultrasound and then they did a regular ultrasound on top of my stomach. And so from that, there was like a small shadow that we could see, but nothing to tell whether or not the baby was in utero or whether or not it was ectopic. And so, and for those of you who do not know, ectopic pregnancy is basically when the pregnancy is outside of the uterus. So it could be in your fallopian tubes. It could be like literally on the outside, sitting on the outside of the uterus. Like it's just not in the uterus. And that type of pregnancy, it cannot, it's not a viable pregnancy, meaning that you cannot continue along with the pregnancy because it can cause the mother to die. And so at that time they could not tell because I was too early. And so a lot of the symptoms that you can have of ectopic pregnancy is, of course, the pelvis area that I told you about, the pain in the pelvis area, nausea, which I was having like some serious nausea, like bad. The right shoulder pain, lower back pain and pressure, lightheadedness and fatigue. I was having fatigue. Your bathroom, go. He trying to pee in my bathroom while I'm doing a video. He got his own bathroom. But fatigue, I was very, very fatigued. Like it was ridiculous. Like to the point where it was kind of like if somebody had drugged me fatigue, like on a daily basis or every other day. I had little lightheadedness. That wasn't really one of my symptoms. And my period was either supposed to come the day of the first appointment that I set with my OBG or a few days after. And so my first appointment was September 27th. And that was like when was that? I think, yeah, September 27th. That was when I went to the ER. So that's when I found out. And so after finding out, and I went to the ER. Sorry if I'm repeating some stuff. So the following week was October 4th. During that time, so when I left the hospital, I wasn't having any bleeding or anything like that. But after that ER appointment, I started having some pinkish flesh-like bleeding. And so the doctor at the emergency room had told me, if the pain on my right side, if it got more intense, to return back, or if I had any extreme bleeding, to return back. And so I started having like some pink flesh-like bleeding that following week on October 4th. By the 6th, I was like actually bleeding. On the 7th, I had lower back pain, stomach cramps, and moderately filled a panty liner with blood. On the right side, pain and pressure was there still. On the 8th, there was brownish discharge. On the 9th, there was lower intense back pain. On the 13th, there was lower pelvic pain, bleeding, brown discharge, lower back pressure. On the 14th, brownish pinkish discharge and lower pelvic pain. On the 15th, there was lower pelvis pain and brownish pinkish flesh-like discharge. And so all of this was going on up until the time that I had my first OB appointment. And so for any of you ladies that may be having any of those symptoms that I described to you, go with your gut feeling. If you feel like there's something that's not right, like go to the emergency room. If you already know that you're pregnant, of course, call your doctor and let them know. At this time, like the pain and stuff was basically like the same. It didn't really increase. I would have random like moments in the day when it might be like really intense, but then it would dull back. So it hadn't increased to a point where I felt like I needed to go to the hospital, because there really wasn't anything they could tell me because of the fact of them not being able to really see my pregnancy because of how early along I was. So there was no way for them to tell me, okay, you have an ectopic pregnancy, let's do what we have to do. At that point, it was kind of like a waiting game, which is like emotionally and slightly mentally draining at the same time. So it was just the fact of waiting and not knowing like what was going to happen, and then dealing with the pain. So I had my first OB appointment on the 23rd of October. I was 7 weeks and 4 days, based at that time, based off of when my period was supposed to come, but based off of when I know that I conceived, I was 8 weeks and 4 days. So they did all the norm. When you go to your OBG appointment, they check your urine, you do a urine sample, they check your weight, and they ask you questions about like what's been going on. They did an ultrasound. They did another vaginal ultrasound. I hate it. When I was pregnant with Zion, I never had one of those. I know one of my ex-coworkers that was recently pregnant, she was telling me, that's how they did hers. And I was like, I've never even heard of anyone doing like a vaginal ultrasound. And that was the first to me. And so I really wasn't expecting that like when I got pregnant, but I could understand why they did it that first time. But after that second time with my OB appointment, my first OB appointment, I was like, yeah, no more. So when I went back like a few weeks ago, last month, for one of my ultrasounds, the tech lady did the anatomy scan, and she was like, oh yeah, well, we're gonna have to do a vaginal. I was like, no, you're not. No, you're not. She was like, well, if we can't see, you can do the regular one, and then we'll go from there. So ladies, speak up for yourself. If you don't need it, you don't need it. So they did all the norm, like I said. The baby was in utero, so I was okay. It was confirmed that I did not have an ectopic pregnancy. So from that point on, like the doctor was able to see a hemorrhage on the ultrasound when she did it, meaning like I had some bleeding inside. So that explained, the bleeding that I had going on and the colored discharge or bleeding. And so she said it was from implantation. And so my thing was, I was like, well, how, when I know I got pregnant at the beginning of September, and this is here now October, or like the end of September, October, like implantation has already occurred. So I didn't really understand that, but it kind of summed up as like the excess or the hemorrhaging that was left over from that process, and it trying to make its way out. And so it's known as I looked it up, it's known as a subchorionic, I might not be pronouncing this right, but a subchorionic hematoma, and it's just bleeding outside the placenta. And so some cases are serious where there's something that needs to be done, and then there's other cases where it's not serious enough for anything to be done. Luckily, thank God, my case wasn't anything serious enough for anything that needed to be done. And so the doctor was able to tell that on the sonogram, and I could actually see it on my sonogram where she showed me where the bleeding was. So November 19th, I had my second appointment with the OB. I was 12 weeks, 3 days. There was no more bleeding. I saw the baby on the ultrasound. We did the anatomy scan. That's when I told you the lady tried to do the vaginal, and I said no. I saw the brain, the kidneys, the fluid on the baby's neck. My baby was very active. When they pulled it up, the baby had his hands behind his head, his legs crossed. And there was even a point in time where, like, they lifted their arm up and we were able to see their fingernail thumb, and Zion was able to go with me. So it was really cool, like, to be there in that moment, to have my son there, and then to see the baby moving around and so active. And he was asking questions, and, like, I sit with him and we look at, like, my baby app and stuff, so he knows a lot about it. So he was able to see the umbilical cord. He was like, "Mommy, that's the umbilical cord where the baby gets the food and stuff like that." And it was really cool for me because when I was pregnant with him, I didn't have an ultrasound where you could see, like, the brain and the kidneys, like, actually see the organs. But at this ultrasound, like, I was able to see all of that. So that was something different. And it was really cool for me. The baby had hiccups while we were there. So we saw the baby's, like, body jumping. They did a PAP that time because at my first appointment they weren't able to do a PAP. So when you're pregnant, they do a PAP smear to make sure that everything is okay. Like, there's nothing going on. There's no diseases or anything that they need to be aware of. No infections that they need to be aware of. To just make sure that the baby will be okay and that the mother will be okay. And during that time, they also did genetic testing on me. So they did about 15 vials of blood. And from that genetic testing, they're actually able to tell the gender of the baby. And so I got that done. And so I was 12 weeks? Yes, I was 12 weeks. So at 12 weeks, we did that. At like 15 weeks, that came back. So it takes about 2 weeks for it to come back. So now you're actually able to find out the gender of the baby early if you want to. They suggest that you not open the forms when they come back if you don't want to know. And, like, when the doctors call you, like, make sure you tell them, "Hey, I don't know the gender, so when you're telling me my results, make sure you don't tell me the gender." They're supposed to do it automatically, but you can let them know to just make sure that they don't tell you. The day that I turned 13 weeks, I was sick with some sort of stomach bug. I ate something bad, so I had really bad stomach back pain. I was vomiting, dizzy, hot flashes, and that was just all from the sickness from the stomach bug. So that had nothing to do with the pregnancy alone. With Zion, I didn't have morning sickness. When I first found out I was pregnant with him, I was, like, really nauseous for like a day and a half prior to, and that's it. But with this baby, I've been nauseous, like, since a few weeks after I probably conceived, and that lasted all the way up until I believe like 15 weeks, 14 weeks is when that finally went away, and it was horrible, guys. Something that can be used for that is B12. That's something that my doctor suggested to me for that, but I didn't use it. I really don't like to take medication or anything like that. I try my best not to. But it's okay to take if you're to the point where you just can't tolerate the nausea. During that time at 13 weeks, I felt flutters. So most mothers don't start to feel the baby moving until like 25 weeks. I can't remember when I felt Zion. I think it was probably, I want to say 20 weeks. But their second time around being pregnant, you're mostly able to feel the movement of your baby a little bit sooner with like small movements. So it's kind of like flutters, like butterflies is like what you would describe it as. That's what I started to feel at 13 weeks. 15 weeks, 15 weeks, all my nausea was gone. I wrote it down. And the back pain, the stomach pain had gone. And I was the best that I felt since I became pregnant, because since the time when I was having the stomach pain and didn't know what was going on, I just felt miserable. Like, I was constantly nauseous every day with my eating habits. Like, I haven't had an appetite, or things that I wanted when I would eat it, it wouldn't taste good after the fact. So I haven't been eating as much just because I haven't had an appetite. And I don't have morning sickness to the point where I'm throwing up with this baby either. It was just that nausea, and that nausea was so intense. It was worse than the nausea that I had with Zion when those 1.5 days when I was pregnant with him. But that nausea was like the main thing. And lower back pain. That lower back pain, like, it continued. So that's something that's been really, really painful to me. If you have a significant other or just a friend or somebody that's around, having them apply pressure to your lower back, wherever that pain is, that really helps to get rid of that pain. But for temporarily though, I tried a heating pad. It kind of worked, but not really. At 16 weeks, I was starting to show a little. The day of my 29th birthday, and the day before I turned 17 weeks, the lower back pain started back then. So I'm actually having some lower back pain right now. And I had my 16-week 2-day third appointment where we listened to the baby's heartbeat. The baby's heartbeat was at 150 beats per minute. And they also did more genetic testing. And so with that genetic testing, they're checking for, like, my doctor said, like, spina bifida. With the first one, it was a bunch of different things, mainly checking to see, like, what traits the mother may carry that could affect the baby's health long term, or for things like AIDS, what else? Down syndrome, so things like that. And my baby came back completely fine, low risk on everything. My appetite during the beginning until now was little to none. Like I said, I really don't have one, and I don't be knowing what I want to eat. The only thing that has sounded good to me and that was amazing and that I wanted it and it was just like the bomb when I got it. I stay in Texas. I'm from Florida. Public subs is the thing. My boyfriend bought me one out here when he came, and I told two fulls, I told them up, and they were so good. That's the only thing that has just hit my spot. But I am running out of time, guys. But I hope this video was a little bit informational, was able to help somebody. But that's just the beginning of my pregnancy journey, and I will be back with more. Peace and love. Merry Christmas.